Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Israeli Cannabis Report webinar from February 2024. My name is Stephen Murphy. I am co-founder and CEO of Prohibition Partners, and I'm delighted to welcome my guests, Elad, Ophir, Itai, and Alon, to our webinar today to really discuss the developments of what I believe is one of the most fascinating cannabis markets in the world, with patient base higher per capita than any other country in the world. Israel really represents the most distinguished and highest grossing cannabis industry or cannabis market. We first started putting together the report with the Israeli Cannabis Association in the middle of 2023. Since then, things in Israel have changed quite significantly, and we are delighted to be able to persevere and deliver a report for a medical industry that is very much in flux with the developments within the market. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time taking a look at what is happening domestically on the ground, what is happening within an industry that has been in formation for almost 20 years, and looking at it from a global perspective. So where does Israel sit within the global world of cannabis? I think, look, one of the areas that we've looked to address within the Israel Cannabis Report was the changes domestically regarding patient access and the impact it has from a supply chain perspective regarding the existing medical cannabis, the existing medical sector. And I suppose, like every new market that adopts, Israel has a historical presence when it comes to medical cannabis and availability of medical cannabis. So it is a lot more established there than other markets. So, like, when we talk of maturity and the impact of maturity for medical cannabis within the domestic market, Alon, maybe you can talk in terms of what the current landscape looks like within Israel, and where cannabis currently sits within the existing medical system.
Sure. You want me to start?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so currently cannabis, to become a cannabis patient or to be allowed to legally consume cannabis in Israel, you need to have a license, and then that will be either given for 6 to 12 months, something like that. In that license, it will be mentioned what monthly amount you can get, and at what category of potency. So currently, we're just in these days we're having a reform in all the regulation, but currently what's relevant is that you have, for example, T20, which means 20% THC, and C3, which means 3% CBD, or T20 C1. Then you'll have a category of T15, will be 15% THC, and C3 3% CBD, and then you'll have a balanced category of T10 C10. That will be specifically mention on your license, and according to that license you'll get a set of prescriptions. So if you have a 6 months license, you get 6 prescriptions that can be filled out monthly, and that's what you can buy. Any new license in Israel always starts with a balanced prescription of 20 grams, and as the patients start to understand their condition and what benefits them better, together with the consultancies, with the pharmacies that help them, doctors that give them advice, even private organizations that help with that, they adjust their license and the potency levels that they can get to best treat their condition. I think that's basically the position of being a medical patient in Israel currently.
And then, in terms of like is there current blockages within that within the system regarding patient access, or is patient access still an issue across Israel?
I think it's as a patient care, the main thing in this case, it's the doctors and medical consultants are going to see the cannabis as a part of a file, normal medical file, which they didn't know yet, because some patients just didn't say to their doctors, to their general doctors, they just don't know they are consuming cannabis at all. Medical or not medical, doesn't matter. And now it's going to be part of the file, part of the portfolio of the file. So it's very important as a medical, to clinicians to see it in there before the operations, or it's going to be also another change. It's not going to be the second chance. It can be now a first choice. You don't have to go through opioids or other medications which are with more side effects than before. It can be the general doctor, not the general doctor, the doctors, the medicians, they can decide now whether they want cannabis as a part of the medication or part of the process or not. But it's something they couldn't do before. Have to say that there are two indications that are not going to, we don't have now this in this recent reform, which is PTSD and pain consumers. Those are the main parts of the cannabis medications, but we have it now just as a kind of a pilot for a couple of years, I think, or if it goes well, we'll see them inside this reform as well. But now it's going to be only for autism, oncology, or neurological, or IBD, like bowel conditions, more medical conditions you can see in the file.
So it's not a first chance, but okay. So within for pain and PTSD, generally the largest category in any market, it's still last choice.
It's still, we have to go to psychiatrists, and like we do have in this time, but they do have a lot of potential PTSD patients and also injuries. So we are going to have lots of more patients receiving cannabis probably in the years from now.
It's very interesting about the cannabis file. Like there's now a recognition within the healthcare recordings of cannabis usage within the treatment. What was there previously when patients would be using cannabis? How is it integrated within the healthcare?
It was just some private doctors. It wasn't in the file at all. They didn't go through the governmental organizations or insurance companies, so it should be in the file. So they just did it through the Israeli Cannabis Agency or private doctors. So now it's going to be only public health doctors who are allowed to provide this prescription.
And was there pushback from public doctors on the change in legislation, on bringing in cannabis or opening up cannabis alongside their other treatments?
Excuse me.
Was there pushback from the doctors of allowing this?
As a matter of fact, not really. They're not very happy about it because they are not sure. They want the whole new subject or new topic in their files or in their clinics, but they're kind of forced by law to do so. And now that's the main project for us, especially for advisors and medical staff, to educate the whole population, not only the consumers, also the medical staff. I mean, nurses, medical doctors, pharmacists, all of them, they are kind of I don't know, frightened is the right word, but they, when you don't know something or you don't understand, and you have 17 or 20 different balances of percentages, the products, THC, CBD oils, smoking products, evaporational products. So they are very confused. So we need to go through the education of this.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the onus remains. What onus is on the health system, the public health system of this education, and what's on the private companies or you know private companies in existence. Alon, like how has these changes and domestic changes, I suppose, how have you adapted your business to embrace this new regulation, and where are you seeing the growth opportunities within the domestic landscape?
Yeah, actually, the new regulation was aiming to make a lot of aspects very clear, unlike the way it used to be before. So you used to operate, it was unclear, sometimes there have been changes you need to imply over your operation, and that was a costly process. You like to do it on the perfect way straight at the beginning. And one of the major things in the new regulation is that it's very clear the pathway of approving new delivery methods. And we worked quite a bit, in order to gain some, understanding about how it's going to work. But at least it was published in a way that is very clear what the regulator expect from the companies to provide in order to approve the new delivery methods. And I think that will bring, the Israeli market currently is dominated by flowers. There is a small portion for oil products. And I hope to see more innovative product coming into the market. Maybe that will help also with doctors, gaining some more understanding over the way the behaving of the products, unlike, with flowers and so on. The other part is giving a priority for cannabis over other treatment like opioids, for example. This is definitely a step that the health system will take step over. And, we in the industry of having cannabis, we all believers in cannabinoid treatment with compared to the alternative of opiates. So definitely we are encouraged to go ahead and see more toward these steps. And I think that the third aspect of moving from, the bureaucracy of having a license into prescriptions, bringing those general practitioners to be involved in this daily treatment for patients, that is a very good steps that we see that the market going toward.
And does this enhance I suppose, the position of existing companies such as IMCI within the marketplace, or does it invite new entrants from maybe the existing pharmaceutical industry into medical cannabis?
Well, IMCI is more pharma grade product, which is very similar, with standard to the pharma industry, but working on the medicinal cannabis industry. So definitely for us is a big step toward making the pathway very clear. So, we know what the regulator expect from us to provide in order to approve our deliveries, which is extremely important for us and for our shareholders, of course, that, you invest your money and, there will be a result at the end. So definitely. There is another part of aligning more those regulations for closer to the EU standards like EU GMP. And for many years, the industry was involved here from, farmers selling directly to patient, and then they've tried to standardize it to put, all the different aspects in the way. And moving toward, this EU standard will open up this, market. Because investing only on the Israeli market, not able to export to the EU market, that created a lot of hurdle for the Israeli businesses. I believe that making the standard clear, similar to those in the EU, and gaining the EU GMP certificate will allow, a lot of innovation coming from Israel to, develop further. We see a lot of experience and knowledge that was gained in the Israeli industry that will be able to be shared, with the European. So definitely I see a lot of potential coming from Israel to the Israeli market, but also for the European market.
But has the and Elad, you may be able to answer this one because of your kind of experience within working with a number of companies within the space. Has this change in legislation and I suppose the expected growth? So I think Ophir may know the numbers a little bit better, but based on our kind of calculation, we see the market growing by around 140 to just under 140% over the next 4 years. That's pretty bullish growth from an existing high market, which we reckon to be 340 million in 2023 alone. There's already a strong market, but this change will see significant growth. You would expect some potential new entrants, but the elevation in standards, are existing companies, investing in their facilities, like investing in their operations, investing in their processes? What's the knock-on effect, within the landscape?
So
Or the infrastructure landscape, sorry.
Yeah. So if I'm looking more at the growers, the cultivators, I think there's a couple of trends that are happening at the same time. First thing is that there's a lot of pressure on them because there's a lot of competition. The current supply capability of only the domestic market surpasses the demand of the 140,000 existing patients. But on top of that, there's a lot of imported product coming in. So this creates a lot of pressure to produce higher quality in an efficient way with a competitive price, and then add service and branding and everything else you need in order to make a business successful. So what we've seen, and our company touches in this segment of the market, is that a lot of the growers are moving, and this has happened for the past, I would say, 3-4 years, are moving towards higher quality local production. So in the past, there was hardly any indoor facilities in Israel, but now you see a trend of more and more coming in, and even facilities that are contemplating converting a greenhouse into an indoor facility, and if it's possible, and all that. And also within greenhouse cultivation, you see huge investments in very high-level technologies to allow even greenhouse production to be at very, very high level to compete with all this imported product, which is generally perceived as high quality. So when you see this market share going outside of Israel, you see the local industry trying to compete by matching the quality, but then adding better service, maybe pricing, and just local production to gain that market share.
And then, if you're able to, Ophir, can you give
a conclusion
the feeling or the moods then within the industry?
Of course, I look at it a few different directions. First of all, just to understand, you said over 140,000 patients with the license today that went through a lot of effort to get that license, is over 1% of the country. The Ministry of Health says it completely out there. They're making it simple. I mean, it's going mainstream. It's going to the healthcare providers. It's going to be much easier to get a medical license, not to get it as a last resort, but as a first resort. Maybe it will take a year for other indications, maybe 2 years, but that's the direction. So we feel very comfortable saying that the numbers will double even more. Today, we can see in those statistics of the 140,000 patients, the numbers of the age groups and the indications that shows an interesting picture about the market. If you see, most of the patients are between 25 and 40 years old and are for pain use. You see, I wouldn't call it the recreational market, but it's not 100% medical. It's not only for cancer use, but it's for someone that really needs pain management. It's not opioids, and the Ministry of Health is understanding it, and they're opening the market. So we will see a huge growth in that side. And in Israel, it's very common, and we like to say Israel is a country in trauma. Like everyone in the country has a trauma, so for that, it will help. A few more points about different direction to look at this is that until now, high CBD product is part of medical cannabis in Israel, and we expect in about 2 months for it to become outside of that regulation, opening the CBD market in Israel. I know a lot of people that would love to use high CBD products for sleep disorders, and they're not going through all the effort to get the license. So that's a huge new market that's growing up in Israel. And when we talk about cannabis market in Israel, I think one is looking at the domestic market, the patients, but the other is the innovation and technology, because I don't know how much of our listeners know about Israel it's known as a startup nation. We have also the most startups per capita outside of Silicon Valley in the world. So in cannabis, we have research for 50 years now, since the first university got hash from the police station to do research. We have at the agricultural side was, since the drippers invented with Netafim, we have a robust agri-tech sector, and medtech was a very centralized medical system with the healthcare. And I think maybe it's important to say who is part of this panel and whose expert is about each one of these points that I just mentioned, because we have agriculture, we have the medical side, and we have the technology innovation. In this discussion, I just know the players in the market. So I think it's important to bring it up to know whose expertise is what.
Your point is like certainly around data innovation and clinical trials. I think clinical trials or lack of data or lack of evidence has been the brush that has beaten cannabis relentlessly all around the world. This change in legislation, this adoption onto the public system, this has to be a major bonus or a major benefit for the ability to capture data, for the ability to conduct new trials. Like what does it do from a clinical perspective? Where is it? Does Israel now become a hotbed for clinical development for medical cannabis, and that integration, more alignment between traditional pharma and medical cannabis space?
We're looking hardly. We're looking.
Alon,
Sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. We are, as our company, we're looking hardly at the balance of loyalty between the patients and the flowers and the oils. Where we do have a kind of state-of-art oil extraction mechanism here, and we do, I think, majority of oils in the state. So, but also we have quite a big research part of it. About more than 60 IP applications to deal with oils and different combinations, and also with different formulations, which is part of our medical pioneering thing. Terpenes, but not just terpenes, and they have special combination of terpenes for women, for elderly people, for dementia or autism. So we do innovate in medical market, and also we can have, if it's very difficult to have loyal consumers in flower market, different with all the different strains. I do think that the quality is much higher in Israeli market right now than it was before, years before. But still, if you want some, the only loyal patient community would be children and elderly people, or special medical conditions you have to deal with. So we do clinical trials, clinical trials with different formulations, which is very important. That's the one of the innovations we have here. And that's the only way we think that right now to provide this consistency of the medical treatment. Okay, so if you want the batch to be exactly the same today, tomorrow, and the day after, it has to be a kind of or a mixed or a CBD and THC together. So that's what we do here, and that's the main part of our medical treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add to that, first of all, I totally agree. And I think, you know, at IMCI, we decided to go on the delivery side, taking it more to the pharma side for standardization and high consistency and easy to use a product. But definitely that losing the regulation and allowing more easily to go into the clinical trial, that will be the best route of developing more APIs with a unique characteristic for a specific indication. And that is what we expect for the future. So we see definitely the market going to be from a general cannabis market to more APIs oriented for particular indications. You know, the initial rush was to the higher THC level, which not necessarily have the therapeutic aspect when you are coming for the medicinal aspect that you expect for particular indication. It's when you are going for recreational market, maybe THC is the king, but not necessarily on the medicinal part. And if you had, you know, I'm in touch with some of the growers that we said I have 14% THC flowers, which having a great therapeutic effect, but I don't grow it because there is no demand for 14% THC level. So, you know, I hope this will change with the new regulation that in place, and more focus on the therapeutic aspect rather than just the level of THC.
So what date, like, are you expecting to get data back from the health system on like, are you expecting to get some level of feedback or input on responses regarding product, so you know you can improve product or innovate within the product? Like, is there any trade-off or discussion of a participation towards, you know, unified clinical trials?
I don't think that you know, data that will be collected by you know, those central clinics in Israel will be shared with the industry players. I wish it will be the case, even without the patient names, of course. That will be a huge data that we can, you know, refine and use to improve in APIs development. But definitely collaborating with hospital, going through some clinical trials, this is something that we expect to see more and more. There's a lot of development taking place. There's a lot of research taking place in Israel, within the industry, within the academics. So definitely collaborating between those hospitals, clinics, universities, and the industry, that will bring more and more product into the market that will be uniquely for you know, solving those clinics, those problems that we all like to treat with.
It's also the part of the reform is to get some to get easier regulation for to deliver to new delivery systems, so we can know exactly what we need, safety, and and you have to compare it to existing products, and you don't have to prove so many things, or we don't need such big groups as before. So it's I think the medical Ministry of Health is very interested in this innovation process, and all the players in this ground are. It would be easier to get Helsinki and to get all the forms you need to go through clinical processes for, especially for the new delivery system, innovating as they can be.
Like, it's interesting the talk about device and device technology, and I think this is where, when people picture innovation within Israel, device and delivery, and certainly cultivation technology is definitely right at the very top. Just on devices, because this is a universal issue. Certainly when we transform from a private industry to a public market, where you're having to win over a larger body of health professionals who aren't convinced by the existing approach of combustible flour, or even an oil, with somewhat loose measurement. Like, who's pushing for innovation? Is the health ministry pushing for innovation, and are they supporting innovation across say delivery and technology?
I think initially, because the market is dominated by flower for smoking, and the Ministry of Health is totally against smoking as general. So this is why is encouraging, to bring new delivery method to the market, because practically it like to take out the smoking from the medicinal market.
It's called the whole process is called medicalization, actually.
Yeah.
So we have to go for doctors. It's very hard to prescribe smoking as a kind of delivery method. So it's understandable who is pushing this process. Also, for some public, they just don't want to smoke. They're afraid to smoke. They don't want to start with smoking. And we need compliance. So the other delivery systems and consumers are pushing as well. So it's a kind of open road for finding a new delivery system, which would be easier and would be controlled and would be precise from one batch to another, which is very important if you're talking about pharma industry. That's and it's not easy with oral products as for now.
Yeah. Like there was the inhaler. I'm gonna butcher the name. Squee. Somebody want to that was acquired by Psyche. There you go. Yeah.
Inhalation product.
Butchered it. Yeah. So yeah, like they were acquired by Philip Morris. And again, like Philip Morris or JT, or they're all looking at beyond smoking, or they're all looking at innovation. And Israel continues to remain not only beyond a hotbed for innovation within smoking, but it's also this is the first time in 30 years that we've seen a crop that has had this economic return that warrants significant investment when it comes to rejuvenation of agri-tech. So, like, Elad, what are you seeing across the maybe the agri-tech or the innovation happening on the ground of how we look within taking this from a seed or a genetic to right through to a product?
Yeah, sure. I just want to add my 2 cents to the previous question and say, you were asking who's driving innovation. I think obviously it's Israeli nature, and necessity is the mother of all innovation, as they say. But I think what we're seeing in this reform, which is a very comprehensive reform, it's really looking at many facets of the market, from the patient to the grower to the processing to the regulation and all that. But it has a segment talking about R&D. And at least the general feeling, we'll have to see how this pans out, but the general feeling is that research and development is going to be supported. They're going to lift barriers and help encourage more research and development. And what's interesting is that it will also be allowed to develop products that are currently not allowed to be sold locally within the Israeli domestic market, which shows, the way I read it at least, is that the regulator is supporting our development for exporting knowledge and technology. So just wanted to add that who's supporting it. I think, it's not a popular thing to say, but I think maybe the regulator, during this reform at least, might be supporting it, or best case scenario. To answer your question about agri-tech and all that, so there's many great things about cannabis. One of the great things is that it's a real driver. This is, I mean, I feel it in our own company. Cannabis is a driver for our company. We're able to work in scales and prove technologies and implement new ideas and innovation in high scale, commercial, high level production that meet pharmaceuticals and agricultural standards. And you have to have a crop that's able to pay for these technologies, and a crop that would justify the long, hard process of building this knowledge. It's not something special for my company. Cannabis is a huge driver for agri-tech around the world, and we're very happy we see it. But if we're opening it a little bit more than that, the actual vision looks at the food crises, and not only medical production. So within 20 to 30 years, it's expected to have a huge food crisis around this planet of ours. And there will be many, many solutions, from printing hamburgers to growing a larva or whatever. But one of them will be to intensify agriculture. And what cannabis is actually doing, it's teaching us how to intensify agriculture production, but it's also already training the growers of the future that will take all this knowledge that they're building on a crop that you sell by the gram, and will implement it in much more basic needs of just food, tomato, leafy greens, strawberries, wherever it be, that within a few decades, it just won't make sense, or we won't be able to grow them outside, and we'll have to find solutions for that. So we thank cannabis for this. You're muted again.
But at least I was pointed, so you knew.
Only the first time.
Yeah. Hey, it certainly won't be the last. Like, are you seeing this innovation? Is this attracting inward investment? Is this rejuvenating the tech scene? Because, you know, there's parts of Israel that has more innovation than continents around the world. Like, where, you know, is there the hope or ambition that this will that this will attract inward investment, or certainly IP that can be exported within the next, you know, within the next 2-3 years to the global cannabis industry?
Yeah, I see technological innovation happening all over the place, also in different parts of the industry, from the cultivation side, from lighting, irrigation, control systems, general knowledge production, and how to pack this knowledge and deliver it to other facilities. I see all that. I don't really know to testify how much of that is attracting outside investment, but I definitely see this crop generating the need for this innovation, or justifying the need to develop a crazy lighting fixture that will also control your irrigation and give you special alerts in case you have I don't know, infection in your plants or something like that. So if there wasn't cannabis, these types of technologies will be very hard to develop, or it will be hard to find the justification. To say how much of that is bringing outside investment, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think I can add that the better the raw material, the better the extraction is. So you could go take it farther on, and as a supplier which have a really big extraction, we do need better raw materials, pharma raw materials, and also if we think farther on, the new delivery system, which are not evaporation or even oil evaporator, will need this extraction for oral products, for maybe different delivery systems. So it's very important what you start from and how do you go further on.
But I think that, you know, the quality of products sits at the root of when you look at what this ultimately is, which is a medical product. but there is, you know, I think as the global supply chains open up and products, you know, starts being shipped from here and there and starts landing, you know, from every corner of the world, which is starting to happen, the sourcing and quality assurance that is on the raw material sometimes comes into question and can sometimes become a major challenge, not only from a control basis, but more for quality assurance. You know, Israel there was quite a big case or announcement, you know, last month involving the Canadian embassy and the oversupply or overstocking, if you will, of products of Canadian products in Israel. Like, Israel has been a port for the global industry for some time, so it has been intermediary to supplying other countries. But what pressure does that put on the domestic industry and domestic players? Like, was it more of a sensational story, or, you know, is there a genuine issue regarding Israel's kind of position, one as a producer, and then as a way to as a protector within the sourcing of global cannabis?
I'll take that one again.
Yeah.
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier when I said that there's a lot of pressure on growers because the starting point is that the local production capability surpasses the local demand. So that's not an easy place to start. And then the import makes it even harder. So what's happened now with the announcement with the Canadian company and all that is not I wouldn't call it a sensation. It's more like maybe a specific peak in an ongoing discussion. So it's making Israeli growers' lives harder. But on the other hand, it forces them to get better. So I always, in this part of the discussion, I always say that I look at it from both sides of the flower. Let's say on one side, I'm a licensed patient, a son of a licensed patient, a husband of a licensed patient. So I know how important it is to have a more open market and a competitive market. And I know how it felt when we didn't have that, which was at times not easy for the patients. And on the other hand, I own a company that serves this market and serve the local growers, and I want them to be happy and successful because that will also help my company and family. So I think there's a certain balance that needs to be met with this. Import is important to have a competitive market and to keep standards high, especially if we're looking also at exports. Once we want to be big exporters, we'll have to have very, very high quality products. By the way, Israel was, I think, last year the biggest cannabis importer in the world, which is not an easy thing to say, but it is what it is. It testifies.
It's also one of the largest exporters as well.
I'm not sure. No, not at all. Not at all. That's
unfortunately not.
That's what I was
for
saying
finished products into Europe.
That's what I was saying about balance. It's all a matter of balance. So we do need the open market, competitive market to keep levels of par. But we also need to support our local production. And we have great local capabilities, and we have very high level products locally. We just need to make their lives maybe a little bit easier, and give them a little bit more support, which actually I think the reform, like I said, it touches many facets of the market. That's one of them, is easing on the local production to help them produce more efficiently, maybe even save a little bit of money, and very importantly, help them produce in a level that will allow them to export to other countries.
It's also the point of kind of unfair competition, because it's one lane street, especially with Canadian market. We can import from them, we cannot export over there. And it's a kind of maybe a kind of pressure that can medical or regulator can put on the Canadian market, or such a one-way market. So this balance in this part of it.
So you're saying there's potential of protectionism of a a blockade, if you will, or prohibiting of imports in the future?
I don't believe that it will.
I don't.
Yeah, they're not allowed.
You woke up very
I wanted something sensational.
Some things
that
we
can
know,
go
some things we don't.
straight to the press with.
Yeah,
But I want to add
don't
about
take
it.
us for the political side, but I think open economy is
You heard it here, folks.
important to have. And you know, normally Israel having bilateral agreement with other countries for import and export. So you know, I agree with my colleagues here that saying that it's a bit unfair that we are able to import from Canada but unable to export into Canada, which making it unfair, you know, economically. But you know what we have seen in Israel all along, that pressure on price was never the issue that motivate the Israeli entrepreneurs. What motivates us is being innovative, and definitely when the pressure will be on price, you see a better product, a better innovation, more advanced, higher standards. So the Israeli product definitely would differentiate themselves, whether it's from the strength themselves, genetics, the growing side, technology side, and taking it up to the final product. Definitely, we expect this kind of, you know, behaving of the market, of bringing a low-cost product into the market, changing the way the industry currently is working, and bringing, you know, and elevate the market to bring a better product to the market. So yeah, from one side is unfair, you know, to compete low-cost product, but I think for the long term that will make the industry better, and definitely this is what we like to see, all of us.
Then, in terms of you mentioned about like the elevation in standards, or certainly the unification of standards, and getting closer to EU GMP. Like how, if it's such an importer and certainly converter in some cases, what's the developments you see happening in Israel to kind of unify global standards across the supply chain?
Yeah, no, I can see definitely, you know, genetics that being developed to a particular indication. So it will start from, you know, the very beginning up to the result that is required. I think this kind of research will be in place, that will be implemented all along the supply chain, straight from the genetics all over. So those grow in Israel that will allow to be exported as well. So you are not directly, you know, compete this kind of low cost product, but you'll bring an elevated product that will bring something else. And definitely that will give, you know, you won't compete on price. You compete on, you know, the patient experience, you compete on the quality, on the standards that you are bringing. And that is, for the long term, definitely more important than just compete on price.
So when we look at export, then what do you expect Israel to lead on the export front in the next 5 years? Like what's its?
Well, we certainly hope that it will be more a medical market. I mean, it would be more harmonized with all the regulations, because we need EU GMP. We do have EU GMP here in Bazelet, but it took us quite a while because the regulation is different. And every country, even in Europe, every country has its own regulation, own time zone, own stability zone, or whatever. So the making a more harmonized standard would make it easier for us, of course, as a matter of regulations. And of course, the variety of products, which are in genetics and standardized products and innovation, would be very important to go to other markets or new markets that probably would be open in the recent years.
Ophir, you want to go ahead?
I'll just add that we're big importers of knowledge in every sector, cannabis as well. And what happened about, I think, 4 years ago when the export expectation didn't happen, that Israeli entrepreneurs scattered around to every market, cannabis market in the world. I think Elad worked with some of the biggest EU facilities that are run by Israelis and projects over there. And I think you'll see a lot of the local companies, brands, have satellite companies in different countries around the EU and Africa, and they import from there. So what happens if we don't produce locally as we could have because of regulation? And now I think the Ministry of Health understood that mistake at the time, and they're making it much easier and taking down the cost of production in Israel. I don't know if it will fix already what happened, and the production will go back to Israel at the same level. But those same companies that do produce in Israel, the cost will go down, the quality is up, and with the EU standards, they're going to be able to export much easier with already their connections around the EU. So I think in the end of the day, Israel works around the EU in all sectors, not cannabis specifically. Okay, in agriculture, in every agriculture we're around, you'll find Israel in every event, like the Dutch in the So not that I'm saying we're like them on their level. I mean the Dutch are amazing. If there's any audience, I wouldn't even say such a thing. But we're expert of knowledge, and it's both in agtech and medtech, and cannabis is a combination of those two. And in Israel, the ecosystem that we have is built in a way that every university in Israel today has a cannabis program that I know of. Okay, every university I visited, they had some type of cannabis program. After that, you have a government that really supports with funds early stage startups. I don't know if you know this. It's very easy to get funded from the government. Not very easy, but it's very possible to get funded by the chief scientist, it's called. That's the plain translation. I don't know if it's correct.
Authority of Innovation.
Oh, Authority of Innovation in English. Thank you. And that really helps a lot of innovation build up in Israel. And we have a lot of public companies in Israel, in the cannabis sectors, that invest in these small companies. I mean, I know a bunch of public companies that have under them 3-4 small startup companies with unique products that you won't find anywhere else. I mean, if we look at the biggest market in the world today, that is the US, or in the US, California, it's so hard to get a license to do R&D today. I mean, in Israel, for a decade already, it's easy. I mean, a decade ago, I've seen, testing of the entourage effect, and you can find the different devices for a long time, and companies that are already late stage, like Psyche that you brought up, and now they're in clinical trials. But Psyche is just one example from other companies like Alon that is very similar in that process that you can share about. So that I just wanted to add my 2 cents. If any of our audience is very interested in it, there is a dedicated organization in Israel called the Startup Nation Central. It's a website. You go in and you can write cannabis and find all the startup companies that are looking for funding. I think funds used to be very cheap 2 years ago. It was easy to get funded for later stages, for A rounds, B rounds. And today, because of the economical situation and the cannabis sector in Israel, it's harder. So there's a lot of opportunities if someone is looking to get into the innovation side, to tap in.
If I can step in and add another note, I think if we're looking at export of cannabis products, and again, I'm going back to the reform because it's actually happening now as we speak. It's in these months that things are happening. A part of the reform is going to be the alignment of the Israeli standards to GMP standards, which will make it easier for companies to export product. And I think that will be like the platform to bring our relative advantages into play, which will be experience. We're coming from an industry that's working with patients for 30 years. There's no many places that have that much of experience. And the other thing is that any Israeli grower that wants to export product, that's an option for him. He's basing himself on the domestic demand, which is not the case for any Greek grower that wants to export, or any even British grower with a much smaller amount of patients, or any even Swiss grower doesn't have the same base market or base demand to build on, and then add the export option. For them, it will be either we export or we don't have any reason to exist. So these are two huge advantages, the experience and the local domestic demand, that will allow, once we're aligned on the GMP, we have a great starting point to move into export of real cannabis products.
Also, another thing which is an advantage, we don't need to use the products here. We can export products which on demand of another country or another, so we don't need to use them here. If somewhere in the world you need a product, and we have EU GMP and all the regulational issue, we solved all the regulational issues. It's enough that the country or wants this product. We don't have to use it here. It can be just produced here. So that's a big advantage going to happen.
But given the potential growth or the expected growth within the domestic market, like what's the priority of focus? International markets or domestic markets for a group like yours?
Well,
if you're talking about the growers, I think it's very, very specific per grower. But for some growers, I can tell you, even from a tax perspective, it's very worthwhile for them to export a certain chunk of their of what they produce, just because of tax benefits. So that's one thing to think about. And these growers are never located in the central area of Tel Aviv. The farther away they are from the center, the higher the chance they'll get these tax benefits. So I think it's a very relevant point. Once they have the standards, it's worth to export a certain percentage, just from it's a lucrative business move, you know. It doesn't mean that all growers strive to be the biggest exporter and to take control of the whole international market. I have clients that their strategy is to be a boutique, small, local farm, to have their local audience and serve locally, and not be the biggest one in the world. So it's really, really company specific and to their strategies. I can tell you that when I was walking around 4 years ago, it was hard to find a company that didn't have export to Germany in their business plan. But that bubble, I don't want to say bursted, but that
we've a minute or two left, and well, we can go longer if we need to. Let's try and be punctual. I used to love looking at decks, and there'll be flags in every market in the world, and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I've worked on lots of kind of opportunities, M&A opportunities over the years in Israel, and there's, of course, like every industry, there's a wave of enthusiasm, and then there's the harsh reality that good quality business is hard work, and it drives people out. But those that have persevered, and the companies that are in existence have developed sustainable business models, and they're now being rewarded with hopefully a very positive set of legislation, domestic and international. Like, is there the expectation of international, who's going to be, is Israel going to go on is Israeli companies going to go on the international charge and, go regarding owning international assets, or is it still going to be international companies looking at acquiring Israeli assets? Where the aspirations for Israeli companies? Maybe you can summarize the attitude or the.
I believe your question is actually you dive into the nature of the Israeli entrepreneurs, because for us we never only think about the domestic market. So it's actually embedded in our business plan, the way we structure our business straight at the beginning, to serve the local market, but to prepare ourselves for the exportation. So definitely I believe each and every market will always look for potential opportunity for the export market. But definitely, local market is excited. The changes with regulation, we waited for that too long, but we are so excited it's finally there, and we are still here. So hopefully we take advantage of this very fast-growing market.
It's we never forget where we start from, and don't forget it's still one of the biggest markets in the. It's quite a big market here, so it's a small country, but it's a big cannabis market if you compare it to other markets. But of course, everybody, we have 200 employees. Of course, we want to expand.
And just as a direct answer, I see it going both ways. I see outside companies investing in Israeli companies, but I know, and I have clients that have entities and assets and are positioning themselves to make big international moves, and they have them already in other countries. I can't, go into details, but it exists already. It's not just a concept or something.
And Ophir, maybe these final words to you. Look, putting together this report, you have been central within the Israeli cannabis industry for some time and have gotten are exceptionally well positioned. Can you sum up the current mood within the sector and
exciting times? Exciting times. I mean, we see both the local market grow. We see the innovation continues to grow. We see the market moving into. Also, I'll just say we're having a first Cannabis Cup in Israel, and it's really exciting. So things are happening. A product is changing. We used to have low quality product with a lot of research around it. Now I think we have fair product in the market, and the black market is starting to move into the legal market. It's very nice to see. I think the regulator, even though most Israelis won't like it and everyone has something bad to say about it, I think they're doing the right moves. I mean, they understand the mistakes, they change it, they adapt. The market is growing. It's for me, as someone that's growing with this market, it's fun. I mean, I meet Israelis in every event in the world. This group of people over here, we have experts with experience of decades. I mean, it's in a industry that's barely around for decades. So, I mean, if someone here that's viewing and still with us after this hour, I mean, good going. I mean, amazing. That's we did something well. I'm happy about that. But yeah, reach out to the Israeli companies if you're looking to tap into the Israeli market locally, or if you're looking for collaboration globally around innovation or product itself. We have a lot to offer. Israelis could be hard to work with, but they're pushers. I mean, they move business forward. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and again, thank you for that. And if you are, well, of course you're still with us. No, what else would you be doing? Please do go and download the Israeli Cannabis Edition or Cannabis Report First Edition. Made available for free by our generous sponsors here, REMY, Bazelet, and IMCI. So thank you guys very much for the support of making this information and data available for all. It's a fantastic research. Ophir, Elad, and Alon, thank you so much for taking the time to share, the insights. I have definitely learned a lot. I continue to be excited for the Israeli cannabis market and the developments for 2024. I'm wishing you a successful year ahead. So thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you, Stephen.
Stephen, Prohibition partners.
Thanks for having us. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.